The morning the silverworms came, May Tran was feeding her ducks when half of Yolo County's rice farmers showed up at her gate, silent and desperate. Behind them, their fields writhed silver white like diseased skin. But May's 80 acres stood untouched, surrounded by 500 ducks moving through the rice paddies like a defensive army. 6 months earlier, May had backed her pickup into the Sacramento Valley Agricultural Cooperative's parking lot and climbed out the stairs. At 47, she was the only woman who farmed her own land in the co-op's membership, the only one who showed up to meetings instead of sending a husband or son. Inside, the auctioneer was selling off the Nguyen family's equipment. They were retiring, moving to San Jose to live with their daughter. May had come for something specific. Next lot, livestock. 500 khaki Campbell ducks, various ages, healthy stock. These are proven layers and foragers. Starting bid, $200. May raised her card. 200 to number 17, the auctioneer called. What's May want with ducks? That was Frank Dodson, who farmed 3,000 acres and spoke at every meeting like his words should be engraved on stone tablets. Maybe she's opening a restaurant, someone said. Laughter rippled through the crowd. 250, the auctioneer tried. Silence. Sold to 17 for $200. May paid cash and arranged transport. By evening, the ducks were installed in hastily erected shelters around her rice paddies. They immediately began doing what ducks do, dabbling, diving, chattering to each other in their constant conversation. Her neighbor, Bill Peterson, leaned on the fence line the next morning, shaking his head. May, what are you thinking? You've got planting to do. I'll manage. 500 ducks are going to eat you out of house and home. Feed costs alone. They'll feed themselves. On what? Good intentions. She met his eyes, steady, calm. Bill had been kind when her husband David died 3 years ago, had helped with the harvest that first terrible year. But kindness didn't mean understanding. On what's in the fields, she said. There's nothing in the fields yet. There will be. He walked away shaking his head. That night, May's son called from UC Davis, where he was studying agricultural engineering. Mom, people are talking. People always talk, Danny. They're saying you're not thinking straight. That you spent equipment money on ducks. I spent my money on what I needed. Dad would've. Your father isn't here. She said it gently, but firmly. David had been a good man, a careful farmer. But he'd farmed the American way. Chemicals, machinery, monoculture. May had grown up different. Her parents had fled Vietnam with nothing but knowledge. How to read water, how to work with birds, how to let nature do half the labor if you were smart enough to step aside. I'm just worried, Danny said. I know, sweetheart. Trust me a little longer. After he hung up, May walked the fields in the dark. The ducks were already settling into routines, establishing territories, learning the contours of their new home. She'd grown up watching her grandmother manage ducks in the rice paddies of the Mekong Delta. Knew what they could do, what they would do. She planted her rice in April. 80 acres of medium grain cow rows. The ducks moved into the paddies immediately, swimming through the flooded fields, eating weed seeds, mosquito larvae, small snails. Their droppings fertilized as they went. May adjusted water levels, managed the flock's rotation, worked with the precision her grandmother had taught her. At the May co-op meeting, Frank Dodson stood during new business. I'm concerned, he said, about unconventional practices affecting our region's reputation. We've got standards to maintain. He didn't say May's name. Didn't need to. The university extension recommends proven methods, Frank continued. Chemical management, controlled inputs. He paused. Not backyard experiments. May felt every eye in the room. Said nothing. Just proceeded. Bill caught her in the parking lot after. May, he's trying to help. You're making people nervous. Buy farming different. Look, we've all got our methods. Tested methods. You start doing something nobody else does, and if it fails, it won't fail. You can't know that. But she could. Not from books or university studies, but from her grandmother's hands guiding hers through rice paddies half a world away. From her mother's voice explaining how the ducks knew things, how they worked in concert with the rice, how the system was thousands of years old and still perfect. The ducks multiplied. By June, May had 640 birds. Her rice grew strong and dark green. The paddies teemed with life, frogs, dragonflies, small fish in the irrigation channels. The whole system breathed and moved like a single organism. Her fields looked different from her neighbors. Wilder somehow. Fuller. The chemical-managed patties around her were neat, controlled, sterile. Hers sang with bird calls and insect hum. At the feed store, conversation stopped when she entered. Started again when she left. She heard the words, stubborn, foolish, living in the past. Danny came home for a weekend in July, walked her fields with his agricultural engineering textbooks in his head, and stopped, confused, at what he saw. Mom, your weed pressure should be higher. The ducks manage it. And your pest load. Where are the leafhoppers? The ducks eat them. He crouched, examining the rice stalks. Ran his hands through water that moved and sparkled. This isn't what they teach us. I know. But it's working. Yes. He looked at her. Really looked. Maybe for the first time since his father died. You knew it would. Yes. How? May smiled. Because I've been watching and learning my whole life. Just like grandmother taught me. The silverworms came in August. Unexpected and catastrophic, and everything changed. The silverworms appeared on a Tuesday morning in mid-August, emerging from the soil in numbers that made veteran farmers go pale. May was checking her irrigation gates when Bill Peterson's truck came flying up her drive, throwing gravel. May. He jumped out, didn't bother closing the door. You seen them yet? Seen what? The worms. Some kind of moth larvae. They're everywhere. Johnson's field, the Kramer's mine. Eating the rice from the inside out. May followed him to the fence line. Across the property boundary, Bill's rice field writhed with movement. Silvery white caterpillars, each about 2 inches long, covered every stalk. The plants were already yellowing, collapsing under the weight of infestation. Jesus, she breathed. Extension office says they've never seen anything like it. Some kind of armorworm variant, probably blew in from the coast. They're mobilizing aerial spraying for tomorrow, but he stopped, staring at May's field. Her 80 acres stood untouched. The ducks moved through the patties in their usual formations, heads dipping, tails up, working steadily. The rice stood clean and green. You don't have any, Bill said. No. How? May watched her flock. Already understood what she was seeing. The ducks eat them. That's not. Bill stepped closer to the fence, squinting. They're eating them right now. 3 ducks dabbled near the edge of May's field, snapping up silverworms that had dared cross the boundary. The birds ate with systematic efficiency, moving down the row, cleaning as they went. How many can they eat? All of them, May said quietly. If there are enough ducks. Bill's face changed. May, I've got 200 acres. If this keeps spreading, that's my whole crop. That's my year. She knew what he was asking. Knew what it cost him to ask it. Bring your ducks over, he said. I'll pay you. Whatever you want. I can't move them all. They're integrated with my fields. But, she calculated quickly, I can loan you 100 birds. You'll need to flood your patties deeper. Give them room to work. Done. When? This afternoon. But Bill, this isn't a quick fix. You'll need to manage them properly. Water depth, feed supplementation, rotation schedule. Show me, please. By evening, 100 of May's ducks were working Bill's fields, and 5 more farmers had called. By the next morning, May's phone rang before sunrise. Frank Dodson, his voice stripped of its usual authority. May, I need help. The silverworms? They're going to destroy everything. The co-op called in emergency spray teams, but the worms are already too established. The chemicals might save 30%. Maybe. A pause. Your fields are clean. Yes. How many ducks can you spare? None. I've already loaned out everything I can move. Then tell me how to get my own. Fast. May closed her eyes. Felt the weight of the moment. It doesn't work fast, Frank. This system takes time to establish. The ducks need to learn the fields need to support them. I'm looking at crop failure, May. Total failure. I've got loans, I've got families depending on me. I need something. She heard the break in his voice. The terror. Come over, she said. I'll show you what I can. By noon, her kitchen had become command center. 12 farmers crowded around her table, taking notes while May explained duck management, showed them her rotation schedules, walked them through the integration process her grandmother had taught her 40 years ago. It's a system, she said, not a treatment. The ducks work because they're part of the whole cycle. They eat pests, fertilize, manage weeds. You can't just drop them in and expect miracles. But they're saving your crop right now, someone said. Because I built the system. Started in April. Gave them time to establish territories, to learn the fields. You're starting in crisis mode. It's harder. What choice do we have? That was Frank. May looked at the faces around her table. Men who dismissed her, laughed at her, questioned her sanity. Now desperate. And humble and genuinely listening. I'll help, she said. But you have to do it right. No shortcuts, no half measures. And you need to source ducks immediately. I'll give you breeder contacts. You're looking at young birds that can start working within days, but full integration takes weeks. We don't have weeks, Bill said. The worms are moving fast. Then you do what you can. Some of you will lose this season, but you start building now, you'll be ready for next year. Danny arrived that afternoon, driving straight from Davis when he heard. Found his mother in the field, surrounded by farmers, demonstrating duck handling techniques to men twice her age. Mom, you okay? I'm fine. Busy. The extension office is calling this a crisis event. They're saying it could affect the whole valley if it spreads. Then everyone better start listening. He watched her work. Confident, precise, teaching skills she'd carried quietly for decades. They're listening now. They're desperate now. Different thing. By the end of the week, May had helped coordinate the emergency acquisition of 3,000 ducks from breeders across 3 states. Had trained 42 farmers in basic management. Had watched her own fields continue to thrive while around her, the county's rice paddies suffered 30 to 70% losses. The aerial spraying helped, but not enough. The silverworms had emerged too strong, too fast. Only the fields with established duck populations, May's and the handful she'd helped set up in time, came through clean. The local news came, then the regional stations, then a camera crew from San Francisco. May refused all interviews. I'm farming, she told them. Not performing. But Danny talked to them. Explained his mother's system, his grandmother's knowledge, the old Vietnamese methods that American agriculture had dismissed as primitive. The story spread anyway. Woman farmers' traditional methods succeed where modern agriculture fails. The headline made May wince, but the facts were the facts. Frank Dotson came by on a Sunday evening, hat in his hands. May, I owe you an apology. Several, actually. She was cleaning the duck shelters. Didn't stop working. You were scared. People say stupid things when they're scared. I said stupid things before I was scared. He cleared his throat. At the co-op meeting. I was trying to run you off. Make you feel small. I know. You knew? And you still helped me. May straightened, met his eyes. Frank, you've got 3 kids and 12 employees. What happens to you happens to them. I'm not helping you. I'm helping all of us. He nodded, jaw working. I'm putting in ducks. Real integration, the way you showed me. For next season. Good. And I'm proposing you for co-op board chair. Elections in October. No. May. I don't want to lead the co-op, Frank. I want to farm. You want to make it right? Stop talking and start listening. Teach others what I taught you. After he left, Danny came out of the house. You should take the position, Mom. You've earned it. I've earned the right to farm in peace. That's all I wanted. The harvest came in October, under skies so clear they hurt to look at. May's 80 acres yielded 4,200 pounds per acre, the highest in the county's recorded history. Around her, fields that had survived the silverworms brought in reduced yields. Fields that hadn't integrated ducks in time were total losses. The co-op meeting that month was standing room only. May attended because Bill had asked her to, said it mattered. She stood in back, arms crossed, watching. Frank Dotson stepped to the microphone. Before we start regular business, I want to address something. This year, we faced a crisis none of us saw coming. We lost, collectively, about 40% of our projected yield. Some of us lost everything. He paused. One farmer didn't lose anything. And that farmer tried to warn us, in her way, that we were too dependent on one system, too close to other knowledge. May felt the room's attention shift toward her, kept her face neutral. May Tran grew up learning farming methods that are thousands of years old. Methods we dismissed as backward, primitive. When she implemented those methods here, we laughed at her. Frank's voice roughened. I laughed at her. Then I showed up at her door begging for help, and she gave it. No conditions. No, I told you so. Just knowledge, freely shared. He cleared his throat. I'm proposing we establish a traditional methods research program. Partner with the university, document what May knows, make it available to any farmer who wants to learn. And I'm proposing May Tran as the first recipient of the co-op's Lifetime Achievement Award. Applause grew. May shook her head, but Danny was beside her, grinning. Just take it, Mom. You've earned it. They gave her a plaque. She accepted with 5 words. Thank you. Now let's work. The crowd laughed, surprised, delighted. After the meeting, 12 farmers asked for consultations. May scheduled them all, working around her own planting calendar. Danny took a leave from Davis to help manage what was becoming a teaching operation. Mom, you could charge real money for this, he said, working through the schedule at her kitchen table. Consulting fees. Workshop rates. No. Why not? This is valuable knowledge. Because grandmother gave it to me freely. My mother gave it to me freely. I give it freely. May poured herself coffee, looked out at the fields where the ducks were settling in for winter. You want to make money, Danny? Become an engineer. You want to farm? Farm. But don't farm for profit alone. Farm because the land needs you to understand it. He was quiet for a moment. I'm thinking about switching my major. Agricultural ecology. Your father wanted you to be an engineer. Dad's not here. And I think, Danny's voice caught. I think he'd understand. What you've done. What it means. May's eyes burned. She blinked hard. He was a good man. A good farmer. So are you, Mom. The winter brought change that rippled beyond Yolo County. The university sent researchers to document May's methods. The extension office, the same one that had recommended against her practices, asked her to co-author a paper on integrated pest management. She agreed, on the condition that her grandmother and mother were credited as the source knowledge. By spring, 23 farms in the valley had converted to duck-integrated rice production. Bill Peterson went full conversion, 500 ducks across his 200 acres. He called May weekly with questions, which she answered patiently, teaching him to read the signs, to listen to what the ducks and the rice were saying. Frank Dotson visited on a Sunday in March, a year after May had bought her first ducks. He found her repairing duck shelters, preparing for the spring hatch. Got something to show you, he said, pulling out his phone. Showed her photos of his fields, now flooded and ready for planting. In the paddies, 200 ducks, working the water. You did it, May said. I'm doing it. Still learning. Made about 6 major mistakes already. He pocketed his phone. May, I've been farming 40 years. Thought I knew everything. Turns out I knew one way. Just one. And when that way failed, he shook his head. You saved me. Saved a lot of us. The ducks saved you. The knowledge saved you. I just remembered what my elders taught me. Well, I'm teaching my kids what you taught me. That count for something. May smiled. That counts for everything. The second season proved the first wasn't luck. May's yield stayed strong. The farmers who'd integrated ducks properly saw dramatic improvements, not just in pest resistance, but in soil health, water quality, overall system resilience. The ones who tried to shortcut the process struggled, learned, adjusted. Some gave up, returned to conventional methods. But most stayed with it, drawn by results that spoke louder than tradition or pride. Danny graduated with his ecology degree and came home. Took over managing the educational program that had grown around May's kitchen table. They hosted field days, brought in visiting farmers from across the state, partnered with university researchers studying traditional agricultural knowledge. You're building something bigger than the farm, Danny told her. I'm just farming. The rest is noise. But even May had to admit, quietly, to herself, that something had shifted, not just in her fields, but in how people saw farming itself. The old knowledge, the traditional methods her parents had brought from Vietnam, weren't quaint anymore, weren't backward. They were solutions. On a morning in August, 2 years after the Silverworm crisis, May walked her fields at dawn. The rice stood tall and heavy-headed, nearly ready for harvest. The ducks, now over 700 strong, moved through the paddies in their practiced patterns. The air smelled of growing things, of water and earth, and the particular sweetness of healthy rice. Bill Peterson's truck pulled up. He climbed out, holding 2 coffee cups from the diner in town. Thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. They stood together, drinking coffee, watching the sun clear the eastern hills. Remember when you told me I was crazy? May said. Bill laughed. Every damn day. Best thing I ever learned was that I didn't know everything. Took silverworms to teach you. Took you. The silverworms just made me desperate enough to listen. He sipped his coffee. My grandson starts college next month. Agricultural science. Says he wants to study integrated systems. Says his grandpa's farm is the coolest thing he's ever seen. May felt something warm expand in her chest. What's his name? Daniel. We call him Danny, actually. After your son, he's been a good influence. They stood there until their coffee cooled, two farmers on the edge of harvest, holding knowledge that had traveled continents and generations to arrive here, in California soil, proving itself true. The harvest came, the yields held, the ducks thrived, and May Tran, who had been laughed at and dismissed and doubted, simply continued doing what she'd always done, proceeding forward with the quiet confidence of someone who'd never needed validation, just time for the truth to grow. That evening, Danny found her in the barn, inventorying supplies for next season. Mom, there's a call from the Department of Agriculture. They want you to testify before a committee about traditional farming methods. May looked at him, looked back at her inventory sheet. Tell them I'm busy, but they can come here. The fields teach better than I talk. He grinned. You know that's basically the same thing, right? Is it? You're changing agriculture, Mom, whether you want to or not. May set down her clipboard, looked out at the fields she'd worked for 20 years, that her husband had worked beside her, that now carried her grandmother's wisdom forward into uncertain futures. I'm not changing anything, she said. I'm just remembering what we forgot. There's a difference. What's the difference? The knowledge was always here. We just had to be humble enough to learn it again. The ducks called from the paddies, their voices carrying through the cooling evening. Tomorrow there'd be more visitors, more questions, more farmers wanting to understand. But tonight, May Tran went to bed early, her calloused hands clean, her conscience clear, her fields ready for whatever came next. She had proceeded. The land had provided. And in the end, that was all the vindication anyone ever needed.